Welcome to Healthy and Wealthy Conversations, where we discuss everything that leads to health and wellness for your whole spirit, soul, mind, and body. You are watching another episode of Healthy and Wealthy Conversations. Today's guest is Steve Piriano. Let's get the show started. How did you get into this field of health and wellness?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess it started back in 2007 with I was actually diagnosed with renal cancer, kidney cancer, and I am thankfully I had surgery, had a year of chemotherapy, and thankfully I'm doing well today in 2022. And I'm also an emergency medicine physician, and I see a lot of, after my diagnosis, I began to notice trends that I really hadn't noticed before. I began to notice that more younger people were coming in with complications from what I previously thought were old people diseases, like strokes, heart attacks, diabetes, cancer, and is starting to notice it more and more. And I think my own diagnosis really made me open and receptive to this. And I started just learning more and more about it and really feeling like this wasn't right and that things could be different. And that's kind of how it all happened.
Awesome. So you started to do your research and realize that not only are there better ways to heal the body, there's ways to prevent many of these sicknesses. What is some of the realizations that you opened your eyes that you came to about our body and our health?
Yeah. So, well, after my diagnosis, I visited a Barnes and Noble store one day. I went in there with some questions like, why did I get cancer? I thought I was living healthy. Was I not living as healthy as I could? Is there something I could do to prevent this from happening in the future? And I bought a few books with the intentions of answering some of those questions. And I started out intrigued, and then I became fascinated with what I was reading and reading about nutrition, health, wellness, and one thing led to another. I became very in tune with this. And one thing I found, for instance, for myself was I thought I had been living very healthy. Before that point, I had been eating a lot of processed foods and not too much fruits, not too many fruits and vegetables. And it was granola bars, cereals, and I thought I was eating healthy. But turns out I learned that processed foods are really not the healthiest thing a person can eat. So that created a big shift in my own diet away from eating many processed foods to really trying to eat as close to the earth as I can.
One of the problems I would definitely say in this generation is parents don't feed their children food anymore. We were checking out my mom and I at the grocery store, and she had a grapefruit, and the person behind the counter was a teenager, and she brought up orange. And my mother had to correct her and let her know that's actually a grapefruit. And she actually had no clue what a grapefruit was and that they existed. And I also remember buying a rutabaga, and she didn't know what it was. And I now realize most children today only eat packaged foods. They never actually eat food from the produce section. So they have no clue what food is anymore. And I truly believe that is what is causing most sicknesses. I don't know if you remember in the 90s, all over the talk shows, there was a trend of them telling us to make sure we read the ingredients of the product we buy. And if it's a word that you can't pronounce, it's not good for you. And it seems like everyone ignored it. And it seems like as time went on, that's worse health went. And, more younger people started getting cancer and heart attacks and strokes and things of that nature. And I just think we need to go back to eating, the food we were created to eat. With that said, you were talking about going to Barnes and Nobles and you got some books. You are now an author of a book. Talk about the book you published.
Sure. So the book is called My Steps Forward: An Inspirational Guide to Living a Better Life. And it's a memoir. It's also an inspirational and motivational book. And a significant portion of the book is also devoted to my thoughts on health and wellness that were cultivated, like I said, from my own experiences with cancer, as well as from my subsequent self-education, as well as from my professional experiences in the emergency department, just seeing an abundance of patients that were sick, that having sicknesses that I felt could be prevented. And I talk about a lot of my life experiences that, well, reflecting back on my life, I felt like I had so many experiences that taught me things, and not just about health and wellness, but about life lessons and becoming a better person. And I felt I learned so much, and I wanted to share it. I felt they're valuable lessons for people about, just becoming a better individual and about becoming healthier. In the book, I discussed, I talk a bit about processed foods, and there's also a chapter that's entitled this question, a backward society. And I feel that we're doing things backward. I feel that, don't get me wrong, I'm an emergency medicine physician, and I think that modern medicine is miraculous. I think we could do miraculous things to save lives and help people live lives. But having said that, I also feel that we are creating illness in ourselves by being sedentary, by eating foods that are processed and not eating lots of wholesome plant-based foods. And I feel like by doing this, we're getting ourselves sick, and then having to be on prescription medications, having to require medical procedures. So I just feel like we're kind of doing it backwards. I feel like we should get to the root cause of the problem and treat our bodies. Our bodies they're probably the most priceless gift we will ever receive. I feel like we should cherish our bodies and treat our bodies well. And if we do that, I feel like there would be less need for all these procedures and pharmaceuticals and everything that people are taking in order to not so much be healthy, but just control the symptoms of disease.
I definitely believe that it's a two-part problem. The problem of the doctors, but mostly the problem of the patients. I know last time I went to the doctor's office for a checkup, and I know I'm not completely working. I'm not completely worked on it yet. It's in my mind to do it. I have a little extra flab, and when they took my height and my weight, she didn't say anything to me, the doctor. Once I left and had to pay, the receptionist gave me a paper, and as I left, the paper on there talked about being overweight, how to deal with it. And my thing was, well, why didn't the doctor tell me? And I'm realizing now, doctors, it's so uncomfortable for doctors to say that to their patients, because nowadays people get so offended by truth. And, when as a doctor, or I should say, patients are not receiving of, you should probably stop smoking, you shouldn't drink alcohol so much, you should change your diet, blah, blah, blah. And so instead, I believe doctors are just giving out medication because it's easier to give out a medication than to tell a patient, it's not genetics, it's you. Because today everyone's so offended about everything. So I definitely believe we as patients need to be more truthful with ourselves and not offended when a doctor says, you probably should stop doing ABC. What are your thoughts on that as a physician yourself?
Yeah, many times it is easier just to give out a medication rather than, actually sitting down and spending time counseling. Although I'm sure a lot of doctors do, but it's hard. It can be hard sometimes, and especially, if a patient is not quite receptive to it at the time. However, if they trust their doctor and they have faith in their doctor and they believe what their doctor tells them, and if their doctor then subsequently is able to take the time and sit down and talk with them, they might be able to help their patient enact a change.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to do a few curveballs. I'm going to ask you questions that kind of have nothing to do with what we're discussing.
Sure.
Because this is a healthy and wealthy conversations, and I say this because not everyone is overeating because they're overeating. Some people are overeating because there's something in the back of their mind they're choosing not to deal with. And in the email I received, it was mentioning that you relate stories of being bullied in junior high school. And I know that sometimes abuse in any way, shape, or form can cause someone physical, mental, emotional health to go downwards. And so how would you say you dealing with that? Did you ever get to the point of dealing with that, forgiveness and all that? And do you believe that experience you had in junior high school had anything to do with you being unhealthy?
Well, that's the thing. I guess I never considered I never considered myself to be unhealthy. I guess the cancer diagnosis was kind of a wake up call and told me that, you know, I'm doing something wrong. I mean, I've never been overweight. I'm one of those people that can eat anything and never gain weight, you know. So I've never been overweight, and I always thought that I was taking very good care of myself. And a lot of I was, but not fully, I guess. But as far as the experience with bullying, I mean, I guess what it taught me was that I should stand up for myself. I guess it just got to a certain point where it was just a kind of the tipping point for me, and I had to do something about it. But it taught me that I should stand up for myself. And when I finally did stand up for myself, bullying stopped. And it also told me that when things get to a certain point, when you get to a certain point where you just can't stand it anymore, sometimes that's what you need to actually make a change.
All right. So my next somewhat off the topic question, what encouraged you and inspired you to write this book? Because publishing a book is not an everyday event, and it's definitely not something, if you were not, how do I say, with the mindset as a child, I want to be an author when I grow up. It's not something everyone says, oh, I'm going to write a book. So what was it that said you needed? Because it seems like this is a book that's needed to be read. So what caused you to say this needs to be written, and what gave you the courage to do it? Because so many people want to be authors, and yet they're not authors. So what gave you that encouragement to do this, regardless of your lack of knowledge of publishing a book?
Well, actually, this is my third book. I wrote two children's books, but well, I guess first, I love writing, and I want to become a better writer. And like I said, just I feel like I have so much to offer. I mean, I'm by no means, there's so many more people who know so many more things about some of the topics I discussed, but I feel like I know a lot and I have so much to offer. And I felt like it's an important message to get out. I want people to kind of read the stories that about my life experiences because they have lessons in them. And my desire to do that, coupled with my joy of writing, basically was strong enough to enable me to overcome, you know, any hurdles that, you know, about figuring out the whole process and just moving forward with it.
Awesome. So for someone who may be watching who is admitting that they have some health issues and they are now at the crossroad where they want to get better and not just accept the illness, what is, I would say, the top 3 steps that they can begin? Obviously, it's a journey. It's not like a 1 or 2 day thing you do. How can they begin their journey of becoming more healthy and getting rid of all of this, whatever sickness they may have?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, well, they should start by, like you said, making the decision, writing it down, and committing to it, and then talking to their doctor. Let's say if the person, the hypothetical individual you're mentioning, if they happen to be on, maybe they have diabetes and high blood pressure, and maybe they're on medications for these, and maybe they're a little bit overweight, talk to the doctor, let their doctor know what their intentions are, and do things along with their doctor. And like you said, this is not going to be a 1 or 2 day thing. This is going to require small steps and do things incrementally, baby steps. Take, as far as diet goes, if they are currently eating a very unhealthy diet, don't try to change that overnight because they're probably going to fail. They most likely will. Start slow. Maybe replace, you know, one unhealthy or a couple of unhealthy meals a week with a couple of healthy ones. Maybe instead of one unhealthy snack, replace that with a healthy one. Instead of a cookie, have an apple. And then slowly, just do that very slowly. Take baby steps, and so over the course of several weeks, most of their meals will probably be healthy. And the same thing with exercise. If they are a very sedentary individual, start just taking a walk around the block just once, and then maybe do that a few times, and maybe next week, maybe make it a brisk walk, and just slowly increase the amount that they're doing. And also have someone there to support them. If they have someone who has a similar goal, get a buddy, have someone that they're accountable to make sure that they're doing what they're doing, because there may very well be days when they don't feel like it. And, it happens to everyone. We can all be lazy. And, but if you have someone you're accountable to, it'll help you to do it anyway. And, just slowly, and just set small goals. Like if your overall goal is to lose 50 pounds, maybe that's great. That's a wonderful goal. But, your goal for the month maybe should be to lose 2 pounds. And kind of slowly take it from there, because these small victories along the way will really help to keep the person motivated and encouraged and want them to go on. And it's okay. Also, I would tell them that, you may not meet your goal. If you wanted to lose 2 pounds, you may only lose 1. That's okay. You may fail sometimes. Just keep along the path. And most importantly, do things that you enjoy. Like for instance, if for physical activity, let's say that if a person hates jogging, I would, sometimes they might get used to it, but if they still hate it, I would encourage them, don't jog, maybe bike ride, maybe find another physical activity that you like, do something that you like. You have to enjoy yourself along the way. Like you mentioned before, it's a journey, and you have to enjoy the journey.
Awesome. So you said originally that you started out, you acknowledged that you weren't eating enough produce and you're eating mostly packaged foods.
Yes.
When you decided to make the transition, I see in the email that you have a family. Did you start this by yourself, or did you expect your family to join you? And if so, how do you, for those who are watching, because I know sometimes they say start by yourself and then they'll follow. For those who want to make it a family thing, how do you convince your family who may not want to change the importance of changing? Because when you live alone, it's easy to change. When you live with people, especially, I know for myself, when I started changing my diet, if I had the good food with me, I was good. If I had like no snacks with me and all I saw was junk food, I went for the junk food. So when you're with a family who doesn't want to change, and here you are at the dinner table eating all this healthy stuff and they're eating this, and it's right in front of you, that's very challenging. So how do you get your family to come in agreement with you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it was just me that started, although at the time my children were very young, and my wife was very supportive, and she started cooking, changing the things that we prepared, the meals that we prepared in the house. And so it was just me. And now my wife, I was my wife has always been a vegetarian since she was a kid. I was a vegetarian until probably, I was a non-vegetarian until about, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. And then over the last year and a half, maybe 2 years now, I've been a vegan. And I feel, and as far as how people can get their families involved, well, I think with the young children, one thing you can do is get them involved. Find recipes that, because there's lots of recipes that are, vegetarian, vegan, that are mouth-watering, they're delicious. And get them involved, help them, have them help prepare the food, get them involved in the process. And I think that would definitely be encouraging, like, wow, hey, I made this, I want to eat it.
Thank you for that. So last question, is there anything else you would like to leave with the audience, either about your book or about the process of being healthy, or maybe any more steps they can take, and any encouraging words? Because I will definitely say we really don't know what the word healthy means. I'll say probably starting 1930s, 1940s is when the food started going downhill. So this generation really doesn't know what humans originally ate. So we really don't know what healthy means. So it's not easy to have this talk with people because, as you said, we think we know and we really don't know. So any lasting words you would give people to help them start their journey?
Yeah, I would say, well, you have to be open to it, because even as an emergency medicine physician, there was so much about health that I didn't know. I would say be open to it, learn. There are so many books and resources out there to learn about, like, truly eating healthy, and be be willing and just know that you can do it. Know that, it may not be easy, especially at first, but once you get the ball rolling and build some momentum, things get easier. Enjoy what you're doing. And, if things are not going as fast as you expect, that's okay. It's all part of the process, but you can do it. If you truly want to make a change, I believe that everyone has that power in themselves to change. So I believe that those are if I could give a few words, that's what I would say. And if anyone wants, may I just mention where my people can purchase my book?
Yes.
Thank you. So, I mean, and if people are interested in my book, it can be purchased from Amazon or Barnes and Noble, or also on my website, which is Steve Piriano, STEVEPIRIANO.life. And, I hope this conversation that we're having, I hope it helps people.
That is all the time we have for you today on Healthy and Wealthy Conversations. I want to thank our guest, Stephen Piriano, for stopping on by, and you, the audience, for watching. Thank you. Have a great day.